and we have a critic of Longinus. So one problem with the concept of the sublime is that it is not having just one meaning. It is important to note that the use of the English word sublime and all its philosophical associations that accompany arise from multiple translations. But the word means the essentials of noble and impressive style. That may be a meaning. Generally, that is the meaning. The essentials of a noble and impressive style. But the meaning of the word and also the philosophical understanding of the term sublime, it comes from multiple translations. So there is a kind of ambiguity about the term. Okay. And the second part is Longinus himself is speaking about the sublime. And Longinus' writing seems like it is rarely considered as a perfect kind of writing or even sublime. So it is not a sublime thing to read. It is not an interesting read. When we read Periupsos by Longinus, we will not have the feeling of the sublime. He is talking too much about the sublime, but his own writing does not give us the feeling of the sublime. Partly because he is too zealous, overzealous enthusiasm. When we look at his way of writing, he is overzealous and enthusiastic. And this leads to a hyperbole or overstatement from his part. So he is maybe a kind of play of words. He is saying too many things about one thing, saying from one side and from the other side the same thing, saying in different ways the same thing. So it becomes a kind of boring text reading, a boring text. So it's an overstatement or hyperbole from his part. Longinus is also criticized for writing tediously in the book on the sublime. So there is a critic of the sublime. And we need to understand one more thing, how this notion has made its impact in history of art. In the beginning of the lecture I mentioned, this text was discovered in the 16th century, early 16th century, and in the mid 16th century it was printed and it became very popular. And in the 16th century this was published by Francis Robertello in Basel. Francis Robertello. So Francis Robertello in Basel published it in 16th century, and after a few years it was again published by Nicolas da Falgano. And in 1600s the concept of reaching the sublime becomes the major goal of Baroque literature and also in Baroque art. Attaining the quality of sublime becomes very important for the writers and also artists. So since then, On the Sublime has received more attention with each passing century. So the book of Longinus, On the Sublime, it has received a great attention from the time of Renaissance. Ever since it was published, its focus or its importance was increasing over the centuries. So this one is actually the image of Annunciation. It doesn't exist. It's a copy of the reverse in engraving, and actually this was painted in a church. So maybe the style is naturalistic, but it is not realistic. So suppose this was a decoration in the church. So what would be the feeling of somebody who enters there, who enters in the church? Annunciation with God the Father, angels and sibyls. A copy in reverse of the engraving by Cornelis Scott after the fresco by Federico Zuccaro. So it was a work in a church by Federico Zuccaro. So what he is trying to achieve in a church that is decorated in this manner, when a believer enters, they want to give a feeling of sublime, a feeling of being elevated in their thought, in their feelings. They want to elevate the viewers. And I will suggest you a reading. If you go to tate.org.uk, you will understand how the concept of sublime is taking over in the centuries, in the centuries that follow. So this is the website. The art of means, if you remind me, I will also provide this link URL in our classroom. So the art of the sublime. What is sublime? British art and the sublime. Desublimations of Christian art. the Baroque Sublime, the Romantic Sublime, the Victorian Sublime, the Modern Sublime, the Contemporary Sublime. So these are different articles that is published in Tate website. So you will find it on Tate website. I want all of you to go and read this in order to understand this concept. And here is a reading for you. If you want, you can have an extra reading. The other one I wish all of you have to read. This one, if you want to know more, Capturing the Sublime, Italian Drawings of Renaissance and Baroque. It's about the Renaissance and Baroque Sublime. And here's a church. Why they are decorating it in this manner? Means when a believer enters the church, they want to feel like they are in a different world. Okay, beyond the natural world. So they were trying to achieve the quality of sublime in the periods after Renaissance, whether it is Baroque, whether it is Rococo, and the definition of sublime changes over time. More philosophers come in and they explore the meaning of the sublime, and the understanding of Longinus, as we know, is very shallow. But later philosophers like Schopenhauer, Immanuel Kant, Lovejoy, Arthur Lovejoy. So there are many philosophers who work on the concept of sublime, and they figure out that they give a more deeper understanding of the concept of sublime. So that is the discussion on the sublime. Okay, so do you have some questions, any doubts? And some of the concepts that is developed in the modern times we will be seeing in the next semester when we look at some other philosophers. Okay, so this becomes an introduction for the concept of sublime, and you can read on it more, and we will look at some of the philosophers in the next semester.